Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Hawk Talk. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. And you know what this show is called tonight. This episode is dedicated to one of our hosts. She takes and center stage, which is she demands it. She's got a little bit of a diva to her. You don't know this about her, but she's always asking to just be in the middle of everything. Our very own Dayna O'Gorman at Dayna OG on Twitter. Of course, I'm kidding, but Dayna, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm going to get a little badge underneath mine where yours says ad hoc blogger. I'm going to put, the real Hawk Talk diva, because that's definitely me and not Evan at all. That's totally me. Absolutely. No, I'm doing good. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I since the last time we talked, there's been so many people watching all this different content we're putting out there that we need moderators. And so I just knighted Detail Oriented. I don't know if he even knows it, but he is now a moderator in the chat. So he has special powers. And if people don't know, the general rules that we've set for the chat is pretty much all inclusive, except one. If you're a jerk 49er fan, like instantly banned. 2, if you're mean to our guests, or you make like snarky comments, or you make comments about their appearance or anything like that, banned. And then if you're mean to Dayna, then you're banned. Other than that, like you're welcome to be mean to myself, Evan, Nathan, but not to Dayna. And Jeff's Canadian, so he's thin-skinned. I don't know if he can handle it either, but we've got one of our first mods. We will see. We'll see how that goes. So Dayna, I am dying to know. I'm dying to know what you thought of this football game on Saturday. I assume you got a chance to watch it.
I did. I watched it. I watched it 1.5 times. I went back through the beginning again. I sat down. I was ready. Like I was focused. I had my notebook out so I could pay attention. And I discovered by the end of the first quarter, I hadn't written a darn thing down. And it was because I was really in depth watching what was going on in front of me. And I liked what I saw for the most part. I think I told you this in chat. I said my 2 best things about this game was that nobody got hurt and that Byron Murphy put that guy on his ass. It made me so happy. Like I was just so excited about that. However, I really liked. I don't want to say the defense was better than the offense. I just paid more attention to the defense, I guess you could say, because number 1, that's what I love. But number 2, that's where most of our question marks were, right? Like we still have a pretty good feel of what the offense is going to bring. But then you couldn't help it because all of a sudden there was all these different passing routes that we hadn't seen in years. And there was all this other stuff going on. And I loved it so much. So I enjoyed it. Am I excited yet? For certain things, yes, I'm excited. But I will tell you that I got a little more excited after today because today showed me a couple of things, and it was thanks to you and your wonderful guest this morning on Hawk Blogger Mornings. That film breakdown was amazing, and I learned so much. I could go on and on about that forever because it really was just like the little things to look at. And the biggest thing, this is what I was telling my son, we always have these questions about certain players, right? We're like, why are they still on the team? What do they see in them, right? We say that all the time. What do they see in them? Why are they still there? And today, does he go by Big Ray? Is that what we call him, Big Ray?
Big Ray, yeah. Big Ray Roberts.
So what he said, he showed us exactly why they keep him around. And it was the Stone Forsythe example that he showed. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch that from this morning, where he showed exactly what he was doing right. And he said, I saw that one play. He deserves to be on the team. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it because we had, waffled a little bit on that kid. And so it was really great. So today I was as excited as he was. It got me a little more excited about that offensive line today.
That is music to my ears.
Yeah.
We got right to the core of this show at the beginning, but we're going to break it down a little bit further talk about different parts of it. Let me welcome
Yeah,
in
sorry.
Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11, um, who's excited that Nathan is here. Nathan, um, first of all, welcome. How are you doing?
Better. Today was a little rough for me. I wasn't feeling great all day, but I'm feeling way better. So yeah, doing good now.
All right. Well, sorry you were feeling rough. Glad you're feeling better, and really appreciate you being able to make the show. Did you get a chance to watch the game Saturday?
Not live, unfortunately, but I did go back and rewatch it a couple times. So I've definitely seen it all at this point.
What were your what were your impressions? What were your takeaways?
I don't know that I mean, Byron Murphy looks like a huge horse. I guess I didn't have any like major takeaways, which maybe isn't too surprising with preseason. Like, everything's in flux. They're not showing everything. The offense looked pretty toned down. They weren't like, there was just a lot of outs and shorter stuff. Offensive line, I thought there was some promising stuff on there, but yeah, I didn't have any big like thematic takeaways, I guess. Did you have anything that you were like, or either of you like, oh, this is new, this is different, oh wow, like?
I think, I mean, schematically, not really, but I guess my interpretation of good coaching is when you kind of call your shot and you say, we're going to play this style of football. We are going to have these kinds of details in check and on point. And then they actually do it. And I felt like I saw that on offense. I felt like I saw that especially on defense. It felt like one of the more fundamentally sound preseason games I have seen the Seahawks play in a while. There weren't these, I mean, I've been doing like watch parties during the preseason games for a few years, and it's hard to get into like the third quarter. I mean, it's like barely watchable. Some of that's the talent, but some of it's also like the level of the football just deteriorates so much. And I didn't feel that. I enjoyed that whole game. I mean, it helped that they like pounded them, but I think somebody said the last time the Seahawks held a team to 3 points in preseason football was like, it was like 10 years ago, 12. Like, it's been a long, maybe even longer than that. It's been a long time. And so I think some of it, because it wasn't like the most glitzy game, I think some of it maybe fell on, deaf ears is the wrong phrase, but what's that?
It was a clean game though. Like,
it was clean. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, it wasn't a bunch of guys who are at the bottom of the roster. I mean, it was, but it didn't feel like a bunch of guys at the bottom roster that haven't like played a ton of meaningful football in a long time. Like, everyone seemed to, I mean, not everyone was awesome, but everyone seemed to kind of have a pretty good idea of what they're supposed to be doing. And that just, I mean, that's like been the big selling point with McDonald's. So it's cool to kind of see that continue to show up in different ways.
Yeah, can I say too that one thing that I took, that the reason why I think it was so watchable for so long into the game was kind of twofold. Is we were watching for little details, that we knew with all the Pete years, we knew exactly what to expect. So we were looking for little details and little changes. That makes it more watchable. But then the other thing too is you are watching these guys who traditionally are a mess at the, by the time that they're not. And so what does that make you feel about the depth? Like, I just kept going, yep, we could keep him. He's good depth. Yep, we could keep, you know what I mean? It just, it was encouraging instead of discouraging the further you got into the game.
I think that's right. I mean, I was just thinking, it feels like we're going to remember, the time when Byron Murphy was a second string player, like, that just see it's good. I think we're gonna look back and see like how crazy that was.
That whole second string of the line, they were running out, I think, Morris Murphy and Miles Adams. Murphy obviously looks like a star. The other two guys don't look they don't necessarily look like they're on that trajectory, but that's a pretty mean second unit. That's tough, especially, for a second unit offensive line to deal with. They were kind of fun to watch out there.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel the same way. And I think Mike Morris is still kind of a underrated aspect of what's going on. And they played him a lot in that game. And I think they're really trying to like get him into game shape. And like, I mean, they've been playing him a lot in practice and I see him kind of like wearing down. He's a big dude. But yeah, I think it's going to be really fun to watch him as a rotational player for sure.
He has already given me the one play of the preseason that I'm going to just way overreact to because apparently Mike's got all these dudes like covering like their Darrell Revis or something out there. That play he had on that, whether it a tight end or whatever, that was ridiculous. That was awesome.
That doesn't make sense, right? Like
No.
I almost, when I first saw it, I was like, no, that can't be. No, that couldn't have been. Wait a second, that was Mike Morris. How is that possible? Like it was a very like athletic play for a 6'6", 300-pound dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Let me get this. I've been lax in recognizing this amazing generosity from Old School Seahawk. I don't know if you guys have been following this at all, but people have been giving away memberships to the channel. I think it's one of the coolest things. They pay it forward. And then the people that watch and engage with the show the most, that like it the most, they get the free memberships. So YouTube like algorithmically hands these things out. And then it's been really cool to see some of the people that are getting those memberships then paying it forward and giving, more memberships away to other people. It's a really, really cool way to just bring more folks in the community. And one of the things that we discovered is you have to be on desktop in order to do this. It doesn't work from your mobile device. Although I think someone said maybe Android does work, but iOS doesn't. And then you also, to receive one of these free memberships, you have to go in and enable on your account that you will accept a free membership. So if you're out there like saying, hey, why can't I get one of these free memberships? Make sure you check your account on YouTube. I've heard multiple people say, oh, I just turned it on and then immediately got a free membership. So give that a shot. But thank you so much for Old School Seahawk being a supporter and doing all that. So that's awesome. All right. I want to talk about the offense for a second. Obviously defense is where your heart is, Dayna.
Yeah.
We didn't see Geno Smith. We didn't see DK Metcalf. Obviously, we didn't see the starting tackles. What was your kind of read for this like run heavy offensive scheme, kind of ball control scheme that they ran out there on Saturday?
I unlike Nathan, I don't mind a good run game, but I know we differ on that. But I think the biggest takeaway I took from all of it actually was from Sam Howell. He looked like mid-season Sam Howell in Washington, and I know that's not a huge thing to say, right? Like he struggled there, and we get it. But from the reports that you had given and other things that I had read, he had struggled so much the first couple of weeks of camp that he seemed settled in the spot. Does that make sense to you guys? He didn't seem rushed. He didn't seem crazy. Credit to the line for some of that, credit to not being the first stringers coming at him on the other side. But it just seemed to be, they kept it very vanilla. And I still don't know what the hell to call this coach. Mike McDonald. I coach Mike McD. I don't know. He talks out of his side of his mouth a little bit like a pirate. So I kind of wanted to call him Captain Jack Sparrow, but then I thought maybe he doesn't like that. So anyway, but I think that he said he kept it very vanilla. And then today in the presser, he goes, you'll notice when we make it fancy or something, which made me laugh. But I thought this was perfect for Sam Howell. It made me feel better about him being the backup. And so that was the biggest takeaway I took from the offense. The rest of it, I think that there was definitely more of an emphasis, which makes sense, especially as you get down the tiers of players, to keep it at the run game, because you have to see, you're looking for special teams, you're looking for all kinds of stuff at that point. So, but I think when I was watching the offense, it really was more Sam Howell that I was trying to pay attention to. And now I feel so much better about him being the backup. I was nervous for a minute.
Yeah, I want to ask you the same question, Nathan. Open-ended about the offense, but I do want to hear your thoughts on Howell in that game.
Yeah, I mean, on the running game front, like I thought Kenny McIntosh looked totally serviceable. He didn't look explosive or exciting, but he looked like he was doing the little stuff right and, finding ways to get an extra yard here and there and making good reads. So he doesn't look like he's going to beat out Kenneth Walker anytime soon, but like if he's a guy that you have to play, I don't think you're feeling too bad about that. I liked some of they had some interesting option stuff in there. Like they had an inverted veer look on a handoff that I don't know if there was a real keeper on that or not. And then they actually just ran it on like an end around with Hal running just straight up the middle, which would be really interesting to see if that's something they do with Geno in the actual season. I don't know if they're just putting some stuff out there on tape or what, but that really caught my eye for sure. I thought Hal looked fine. I didn't get super excited about him. He didn't make any really boneheaded mistakes, though. Which even with Locke the last couple of years and all the people fall in love with him, and he had some. I think Locke had so far has had flashier plays than Hal did in one game, but Hal didn't have any of the dumb stuff, which Locke was always good for. Looked mobile, seemed like he had a good feel for when he wanted to get out of the pocket, pick up some yards. So again, kind of he felt him and Kenny McIntosh were kind of like along the same lines for me, where it's like, I probably don't want this in like starting in a regular season, but I'm not going to freak out if it does happen. Like he looks like he looks like a pro.
Yeah, I think that's just an underrated. I wanted to hear from both of you about that, because there's a lot of folks that were like, oh man, he looks like crap, or like this guy's not good. And I've seen him look like crap. So I can tell you for sure everyone in the press corps has seen him look like crap. But that wasn't it. And what I haven't seen for him in even a regular season game is to play control, like play under control, to play the game manager, which is very boring. Like it's not an exciting brand of football. But there wasn't a lot of plays where he put the ball in harm's way. He led what should have been 3 touchdown drives. The offense was efficient, and he made some decent throws. Do I think that he's got more in him? I know he does. I've seen him do more. What I haven't seen him do is play a complete football game without turning the ball over, forcing it into, coverage where he shouldn't, being wildly inaccurate. And so that was, to me, refreshing to see and reassuring to see, okay, Grubb is developing him. And that's the other thing is, you guys remember when Russ was here? You guys remember, and I'm not talking at the end, I'm talking at the beginning when he was a rookie. Tater was his quarterback coach for years. Like there was no structure around him to develop him as a quarterback, as far as I am concerned. Darrell Bevell was not like a quarterback developer, like that's not his background, and it hasn't been since. And so I've seen Sam Howell take more steps in 3 weeks than I felt like I saw Russ take. I'm not saying Russ needed to take the same level of steps, but like I didn't see as much development in him in years with the Seahawks. So again, I think it just all points back to coaching. And on that note, on the kind of quarterback note, there's been some news around the NFL. JJ McCarthy, the Vikings first round pick, out for the year. They weren't sure what they were going to find. Meniscus tear, bad enough that he's going to be out for the year. I thought there was other news. Oh, Matthew Judon was traded from the Patriots to the Falcons. So both of them are Seahawks opponents this year. The Patriots just got a little bit easier in week 2. The Falcons, assuming Judon's available, just gets a little bit harder. For people listening and not watching, Dean just says that the headline is that Brian thinks Howell is better than Russ. Well, maybe today he might be. I don't know. We'll see. But that on paper, that's a pretty big move in the NFC for the Falcons, who look like a pretty good team, and are adding a pretty good pass rusher. So I'm curious, either of those bits of news, anything that you guys had thoughts about that? I mean, the Vikings are on the Seahawks schedule as well, and
Mhm.
it's looking increasingly like they'll be facing Sam Darnold. They also, I think Jordan Addison went out on a
He's
cart
okay.
today. He's okay?
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Yeah,
Okay,
so it's
good,
better.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the Vikings have had it rough.
Yeah, I feel for Vikings fans. And my Twitter's a little different. I have fans from all over the league because of the Our Turf podcast. And so the Vikings fans are just gutted. And I think it's because after what happened to them last year with Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, and they turn around, they have this new kid who everyone is as excited as you guys are about Grub, they are about JJ McCarthy. I mean, they just think he like walks on water. And so I think that's they just it broke their hearts again today. And I feel bad for them. Does that make it easier for Seattle? We don't know, to be honest with you, because we don't know how JJ was going to play throughout the season, and rookies are always fun to play against. But at the same time, it just kind of gutted me for the Vikings fan base. And I know it's not cool to feel bad for other teams, but I feel bad from 2 years in a
I don't
row.
think
They've
there's
just been
anything
kicked in
wrong.
the gut. Yeah.
I feel bad for any team but the 49ers, as far as I'm concerned.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Nathan, any thoughts from you about either the Judon trade or the news coming out of Minnesota?
I mean, it's kind of all bad news for the Seahawks. I don't think anything here is like, suddenly changed the course of their season, but you have a team that you already kind of expected to beat up on that got worse. So like you're not getting an easier schedule from this. In fact, you're getting a harder one because now a team that with the Falcons that maybe is pretty good, who knows where they're going to end up. Well, they just got more likely to be good. And that's more competition in the NFC. And then honestly, the Vikings game may have gotten harder with Darnold over McCarthy. I mean, who knows what McCarthy will be, but so it wasn't the best day of news, I think, from a Seahawks perspective, but I don't know, it'll be really interesting now to see what the Falcons are, because they clearly think they're on the verge of something. They only traded a third, I think, but still, like they're
Third's
going forward a
pretty
little bit.
decent comp.
Yeah, and so that's
And then they're
that's
going to pay
something.
him. You assume they're going to pay Judon too, because he was holding out for money.
Yep. And so that's extra competition. A wild card rival just got a little bit stronger. So
When is this Aiyuk thing just going to wrap up? I'm actually
Not
finally
soon
sick
enough.
of it. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Like, I thought for sure today that they would announce the extension. Like, it seemed like, what is holding this up?
I mean, honest to God, you read all this stuff. I can't figure out if this is the Niners, holding this whole thing up, if it's Ayuk holding the whole thing up, if it's Pittsburgh saying, no, we're going to only do. I can't even, because the reporting is so spotty, right? And you get these little nuggets from all over the place. And so I sent a little message to one of the Steelers reporters I know, and I'm like, between the two of us, is there anything? Nothing. They know nothing. And it's just insane to me that it's been so public and yet no one has any idea what's going on. It's
it
crazy.
feels like the Niners are just kind of throwing a bit of a temper tantrum on this. Like they're
Yeah.
leaking the, oh, well, we have an offer. Like we're waiting to see whether he like wants to take it. And I mean, he really painted them in the corner with just narrowing it down to Pittsburgh. So I don't think, we talked about this. I think Pittsburgh has a little bit more incentive here to actually get something done. I know I think you feel differently on that, Brian, but it kind of strikes me as like whether the Niners should feel incentivized to move faster or not. I think they're just mad about the situation and they're just gonna kind of let this drag on just to maybe stick it to Aiyuk a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know at this point, and we won't spend much time on it. I just, from all reports, they already have the compensation they're looking for from Pittsburgh. They want Aiyuk to stay, so they're trying to get that figured out. And there's supposedly one last thing that Aiyuk wants that they haven't, whatever that is, don't know. But I don't know. I mean, it seems ridiculous that they've taken all of this to figure out if they really wanted him, this is just like they look at what they did for Christian McCaffrey. Look at what they've done for Fred Warner. Look what they've done for other players on the team. They have paid them handsomely, top of their market contracts. It seems inevitable you're going to do that. Then just do it. Otherwise, if you were going to trade him, like I just don't get. Like I don't know. Do they really think that Brandon Aiyuk was just going to cave and accept a below market deal when none of the other players on the team did that? It's just bizarre to me.
But there's no reason for them to trade him right now. Like, there's no reason for them to feel like, from their perspective, they're probably just looking at it and saying Brandon Aiyuk is not a part of this team, right? Like that. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure they want him to come back. I'm sure. I believe there probably is an offer out. But like you're saying, like if they wanted to get this done with him, they could have gotten this done with him. Clearly, there's a bridge that they can't cross. And so from their perspective, it's like, well, we'll just hang out. Hopefully, he caves in, comes back, and if not, like he's not a part of the team no matter what. And so, what do we care if we trade him week 1 or now? Like maybe Pittsburgh finally gets fed up and offers a little bit more. There's just. While I kind of feel like maybe they're being a little bit petulant about it, there also is just really no reason for them to try to move faster on this.
I see that part differently because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they just want draft picks. I think they want a receiver back. And if
And
they're
wouldn't
not
you
gonna
want to
get
get
it
him in?
from
Yeah.
if they're not going to
Sorry.
get it from Pittsburgh, then I think they need to take the comp they're going to get from Pittsburgh and turn around to other teams and bring in another receiver. So they've got work to do, and they want to get that player in as soon as possible. So they know that they are a Super Bowl losing team with Brandon Aiyuk, who's a very good receiver. They know they're going to be less likely to be a Super Bowl winning team than they've been before if they just lose him. And so they want like another. I mean, I keep waiting for them to get the comp from Pittsburgh and turn around to the Raiders and get Devontae Adams. That's like the one series of events that would make sense to me if I was a 49ers front office person. But I don't know that. I mean, I don't know. So that's to me like I think that the way things are headed are not advantageous to the 49ers. Like I think that there's a lot of reasons for them to want to get this resolved sooner rather than later. But
does the money work on a Devontae Adams trade? Like
I don't know.
If you can't keep Aiyuk, are you going to be able to bring in Adams?
Nathan,
yeah,
the cap's not real. It
I do know the
doesn't
cap's not
matter.
real. But they are also like in this weird spot now with Aiyuk. So like clearly they're feeling, whether real or self-imposed or whatever, they're feeling some kind of pressure here.
Yeah. Well, let's get to some Patreon questions. Dayna, if you wouldn't mind pulling those up, patreon.com/hawkblogger is the place to go. You get the audio versions of all Hawkblogger mornings, all emergency pods. You also get access to the Slack channel where you get to ask us questions each and every week. And also, as much as people love the chat in here, which is awesome, the Slack is constant. So it's a great place to go and talk all things, including the Mariners, who can't seem to do anything well. But that's not something we're going to spend time on right now. But yeah, Dayna, what do we got for questions this week?
All right. There's quite a few. Some of them are lengthy. Just to give us a head. This first one is from Bobo T. Love that. It says, it sounds like there's a ton of praise and recognition for K9's development and training camp. Just curious if Sharbs is progressing as well. It's been super quiet around Sharbs, and I'm wondering if that's a negative sign. They did say today in the presser that he had tightness or something. There was like a little injury. It didn't sound like anything major though. Brian, I'll give this one to you since we know Nathan loves to talk about running backs.
I would say it's been a quiet camp for Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah.
And Kenneth Walker has really shown up, especially the last few practices. He just moves differently than anyone else out of the backfield. And I think he's poised for a explosive season, both as a receiver and as a runner. And I think he's going to get a heavier percentage of the share of the touches as well. So he might be the most featured player on this offense, even though DK is the guy that will get, I think, a ton of more targets than normal. I just think he's set for some really good things. Um, Charbonnet, I mean, he hasn't been bad, but he's just kind of looked like okay. Like there
Mhm.
hasn't been anything that's been. I mean, he's obviously in really good shape. That's great, but haven't seen anything particularly special. I'm not worried about him as long as he's healthy. He's a good running back, but um, yeah, there hasn't been a lot to talk about with him in general.
Mhm.
Those two backs are like K9 is the guy that should look awesome in practice, and Sharps is like, because K9 is just, he's gonna move like crazy. He's fast. Charbonnet is a guy that kind of wants to go through you, and they're probably not doing a ton of that right now.
Yes,
Um, so probably just a little bit of a disadvantage there in terms of what these guys you'd expect them to look like in a practice.
I think
That
that's a fair
said,
point.
I think Kenny McIntosh is coming for his job, so we'll see.
It could
I'm going
be.
to stay on that limb of I think Kenny McIntosh is the 5th best running back on this roster.
Hmm.
Ooh, we're going to talk about that later. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Matt G. Nathan, this one's for you. From Matt G. What training camp or joint practice clip has you most hyped for the season?
Huh. I mean, I think the coolest clip is the Bobo catch. I don't know that gets me super excited for the season because I don't know how much we're gonna see Bobo, but I still kind of, yeah. I think I still believe in Bobo. I still think there's a chance he actually plays a pretty big role at some point. He probably needs an injury to really get the opportunity. So yeah, I'll say that one just because it's the coolest one, I think, by far.
Yeah, that was a great catch for sure. They did say today in the press conference that Lockett has been sitting because his leg has been bothering him. He's like, he'll be fine, he'll be fine, he'll be fine. But that does make you think, okay, Jake Bobo, you're one Tyler Lockett injury away from being there for sure, which I would never wish ever. But
Oh,
all right.
so somebody actually in the chat just mentioned
Uh-huh.
Witherspoon. I guess sounds like he had a rough day in the Titans joint practice. DK, some of the DK reps that I've seen, the clips of him going against Spoon. I don't know if Spoon's just having a rough camp or what is going on with him. But it's pretty cool seeing DK torching a really good corner and not just like bullying him and beating him over the top or something like that. Like on, I think it was like a dig and a comeback. So
Yeah.
I think DK is going to have a God mode season. Like I really do. He will have to be something different than what he's been consistently each day in camp for that not to be true. He's going against extremely good corners and he is winning consistently. And not every team has really good corners. And the Broncos do not have really good corners. They have Patrick Surtain. He's not as great as everybody. I think he's overrated, especially size-wise against a guy like DK. I think DK is going to have a field day in week 1. So we'll see.
That would make me so happy. You know how I feel about Denver. Okay. This one is from Jason A. And then it says parentheses, guys, we're so back, which I love that in his title. So this one's a little longer. It says, things seem to be largely going as planned in the early first preseason of Coach Mike's tenure. Provided the situation continues and we see all the success we hope for out of this preseason, what do you think are the risks of not encountering significant challenges before the season starts? And how do you think the coaching staff feels about it? I like this question a lot. Brian, I'm going to give this one to you first, but I want to hear what Nathan says too.
Can you read that again? I'm just kidding.
Like the whole thing. I can read the question part again.
So if I got the gist of it, Dayna, it was, hey, things are going well. How do you think coaches are going to feel if they're not going to really face adversity prior to the season? Right. Is that the gist of it?
Pretty much. And I think that you can take it two ways. You can just say that the preseason's going so well and they're getting exactly what they want out of the players. And this caveat to that then is the preseason isn't hard anymore. They don't have as many games. They don't go up against first ever, that sort of thing. So you could probably go either way with it. Yeah.
I mean, there's some interesting comments from McDonald and some others about this joint practice. I think I'm going to kind of take it a different direction than I think the person intended, but I think one of the things we're going to see is that the NFL teams are going to move away from preseason games meaning much. They'll just be depth players, and
Mhm.
that it's going to be these joint practices that are actually the prep. Because if you think about it, you don't play your starters in preseason games for the most part. You do play them in joint practices. You don't show your offense or your defensive plays that have anything other than vanilla in a preseason game. You do in a joint practice because these are
Mhm.
you get to pick who you play, and they're people you're not going to play during the season. So like you have more flexibility. You get to see people go up against real. It's like more actually valuable reps, I think, than you're going to get in a preseason game. So I think you're going to see more people doing them, and I think the preseason, it wouldn't shock me entirely if it just kind of goes away. I think the only reason it won't is money because they charge
Mhm.
season ticket holders for those games.
Mhm.
But once you get to 18 games and there's only 2 preseason games, I think it's going to be like this week where the Seahawks are in there doing Tennessee joint practice, and the game is like it's like a exhibition. It's like an
Mhm.
afterthought. None of the starters are going to play because the real preparation happened in the joint practice.
So
Mike
yeah.
McDonald also has made a comment that I want to follow up on because I don't know what he's referring to. He says the sports science shows the benefits of the joint practice, that it calluses the team. Don't know what he's referring to,
Mhm.
but he is very much a sports science guy. So he's looking at that information to help make these decisions.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And this is the first joint practice in forever for the Seahawks. And
Yes.
and he said in his press conference today that they decided to do this back in the spring, which makes me think they probably have wanted to do this for a while and maybe got a little pushback from our former head coach. So I think that's really interesting. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that preseason is just going to look very different. We're going to have a lot of Hall of Fame type games, right? From now
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So let's go on to the next question. This one is from Braxton. Parentheses, Connor Williams truther is what he has on there. And Nathan, I'm going to give this one to you. Has Nelson Caesar popped much in camp? Do you think there's a chance he makes the 53-man roster? So for those who might not know, Nelson is undrafted free agent linebacker, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Edge
Okay.
player.
Mm-hmm. Nathan, what do you think? Have you heard? I looked it up. I didn't hear a darn thing about him. So maybe that's a better question for Brian. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, maybe because I didn't actually think to look for him rewatching the preseason game. I don't know how much run
Mhm.
he got there, but I wasn't paying attention. I know you've been positive on him though, Brian, right? So I think
Yeah.
I'm hearing that he's having a really strong camp.
For Brian. Brian.
He's not dominating or anything like that. I wouldn't like he's not like a Jake Bobo undrafted free agent kind of preseason, but I think he's played well enough that he's very solidly in the practice squad conversation. And depending on what happens with Darrell Taylor, he would be the next man up if they were to keep 5. So I do think if Darrell Taylor doesn't end up on the roster for some reason, then there's a chance he could. So, but he started a little stronger and he's actually faded a little bit, in my opinion. Let me give a quick shout out. Jared is giving away 5 memberships, man. It's amazing. Thank you so much. And it's awesome seeing all the people celebrating your generosity and all the new people that are getting the benefits of your you giving these away. So that's really cool. Thank you, Jared. All right, keep going. Sorry about that.
No, you're absolutely fine. Nathan, I'm going to give this one to you. There's a couple that are Brian specific, but this one I'm going to give to you. It's from Ev. It says, it seems like Knight has done well in games, so it appears the feedback is more mixed coming from the coaches. How do you feel Knight has performed so far? And is there an outside chance Knight becomes a great player? I love the argument around this guy right now. Nathan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean we had a big discussion about for folks who don't know, Mike had just a weird comment about Knight. And I think like without knowing some of what like Brian has shared about how Mike doesn't want to hype up guys and he's very big on not reading your press clippings and all that kind of stuff, it like immediately it read really poorly. Like they are not happy with him. It doesn't seem like that's the case. And he was the one I probably watched the closest of everyone in the preseason game, and I thought he looked solid. Had some plays, for him. I think the biggest thing is just look like he belongs and look like he knows what he's doing out there, and he totally did. On the subject of guys that just kind of look like pros and that was clean, I think he pretty much fit that pretty well. So I thought he had a really encouraging preseason game, and then the comment with McDonald is kind of like, it's going to be like a 3-year thing, but he's going to get there, and so it was really mixed. But is there star potential with him? I don't know. I don't know that he's not a guy that like just based off like raw physical skills or like what he's showing, like technique wise or anything that you really feel like, oh yeah, this guy's got a great shot. But there's nothing necessarily holding him back from being, a great player for this team. So it'll just be about how he develops. And I think all the early signs so far are good for him to at least be worthy of that pick and exceed that draft position.
The interesting thing is that Coach McDonald was asked about him again today.
Oh,
and when he answered, he started laughing, and he's like, he's good. So I think that he realized maybe what he said was taken a little wrong. I don't know. It seems like it's maybe like there's a personal joke in there somewhere that we just aren't privy to, because he just started laughing. It was real funny. So it was good.
I mean, you have to understand as well, for McDonald, talking to the press every day is got to be grating for him. And the amount of times he said, I feel like I keep repeating myself. I've talked about Byron. I've said, like, in his mind, I think he's like, oh, I'll answer the one time they ask me about this player. They'll get my answer and they'll stop bothering me. But people every day are like, what did you think about Byron Murphy today? And he's like, dude, we just talked about that. And I'm trying not to get this guy out over his skis. And the Tyrese Knight thing's the same kind of thing. And like, so yeah, I don't think he loves the press conference stuff, and I think he's feeling very pulled from his football duties. But he's very polite. So I mean, I just that's kind of the I think it's funny to watch him and the PR team kind of work through this transition for him.
It was funny in the press conference today. I wrote down in my notes, he's getting very good at coach speak. Like out of all of a sudden, instead of these huge lengthy answers that he was getting, he's really good. He's like, yeah, it worked out well. Next. It's like, oh, he's getting it. He's starting to figure it out for sure. All right. Okay. So Brian, this one is specifically to you. It's from Chris. It says, Brian, you have spoken a lot about the growth and development of Derek Hall from year 1 to year 2, assuming Uchenna and Draymond, who was a little injured today, but I guess he's fine, are the starters in base. Should we look for Hall to spell them along with Mafe? Has he earned a larger role in the passing down situations, possibly in pace of someone like Taylor? This is a good but not great group, and it would be exciting to have one of those guys really pop. And it sounds like Hall might have the tools to do it.
Yeah. The fun part with Hall is I don't think we know what his ceiling is yet.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I know Mafe's ceiling a little bit more, and that might come back to bite me, but I think Mafe is the player we saw last year. I'm not sure that there's another level to him. It's just good. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I don't think we're going to see like Nick Bosa level, Micah Parsons level domination. And that would be the kind of next thing. Can he be a Daniel Hunter kind of pass? I don't think that's who Mafe is going to be. Derek Hall, I don't think we really know. He's actually, the actual tool changes from him, the development changes from him from year 1 to year 2, to me, are much more stark than the Mafe changes were from year 1 to year 2. And so I think he really fits in well with the Mike McDonald scheme, and I think he fits in well with doing games with the interior linemen. I think his power is a real problem coming off a twist when someone's like handing off Byron Murphy to one side, and then Derek Hall comes through with this sledgehammer power that he's got, I think he's going to knock some guards on their butts. And so I really think he's going to be a very productive part of the rotation. To me, there's no question he is ahead of Darrell Taylor. I think there is some question of, is he pulling even with Mafe in the coach's eyes? Like, is he going to steal snaps from some of those guys? And the answer right now is no, but I don't think it's a crazy question at this point.
Is it crazy that I really don't like that, like, Jones is somehow just given the spot above him and Mafe? Like, why is it Nwosu Jones with Mafe and Hall spelling him? Why is Jones, like, to me, he's the odd man out here.
I think it's a totally fair question. And my first thought when I with the first week of Hawk Blogger Mornings, and I was going through, I think maybe the first episode or second episode, I was like looking at weights, and I was like, Draymond Jones is a man without a position in this Mike Macdonald defense. And sure enough, they're like, he cut weight. They put him at outside linebacker edge. And they've developed this position called rush, all capital letters. And Draymond Jones is the top of that in the depth chart, whatever that means.
It means he's getting paid the most.
It could be. That's the cynical thing, and I think it's probably fair too. But my read of it is they see Draymond Jones as being the most advantageous run block or run defender of all of them. And kind of like Red Bryant was when Dan Quinn put him at 5 tech, and all of a sudden nobody could run. Like, he would just blow up tight ends and had this massive physical advantage. I'm not saying Draymond Jones is a 325-pound guy like Red Bryant, but he physically is bigger than the other guys, and I think that they really like being able to put him out there in that situation. So that's my read of it. But I think they're all going to get plenty of snaps. Is this the Mike Glennon from the quarterback? has he? We did have Mike Jarrell's dad join as a member.
That's very cool.
So, like, you never know. Mike Glennon, thank you for the super chat, says, I think a lot of folks are underestimating our edge talent potential. I suspect with a better push up the middle, we could see double-digit sacks out of both Nwosu and Mafe, or am I the one overestimating? What do you think, Dayna?
I don't think we'll know. I don't think we're going to know. Probably. I hate to say that. Sounds like I'm sitting on the fence. I'm really not. I truly believe you have no idea who a team is until game 4. And so I think once we start to see that, we'll be able to say, oh, yeah, we'll go back to Mike and we'll be like, Mike was 100% correct on this. But I do think after what I saw in that first game, I think it took some of my fear away. I'm feeling much better about that group. And so is it possible? Absolutely. It just depends on how they're used. But this game made me feel a lot better about that line.
If you listen to McDonald, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, these are guys that have been really close to double-digit sacks already in their career.
Right.
In fact, did Nwosu do it? He didn't do it in San Diego.
9.5.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like, are they both going to get to double-digit sacks this year? That's maybe like, if that happens, then it's probably been a real good year. But one of these guys getting there, I think is pretty likely.
Yeah, if you listen to McDonald really carefully, he's talked about this over multiple pressers where when asked about the edge group, he's like, they are figuring out how to play off of the interior linemen. And he's talked consistently about how the interior linemen are a little bit ahead. And Dirty has also kind of referenced that. And then after the game, McDonald said, I was pleased with the edge group, especially the first string. And it sounds like, okay, that's like not that big of a deal. But if you listen when Mike McDonald talks, he doesn't usually praise freely. So when he says something like that to me, knowing that he's also been talking about that they haven't been exactly where he's wanted them to be, I think they're starting to figure out how this defense works. And I do think that's the type of thing that could be a lot different at the end of the season than it will be in the first part of the season. It's a timing, consistency, chemistry kind of thing.
Okay. We have a couple that are alike. basically we have two people. We have Chris Bailey and we have More Bobo who want to know basically. This is appears McDonald is doing a great job with his first camp with all the new coaches and schemes. Is there a position coach you've been impressed by? And then Bobo says, is there an unsung hero, either player or coach, that could be important in the season? So really, who is sticking out to you like they could be the person? Nathan, why don't you go first?
The person,
you can go ahead and say Grubb because you guys assess about him. So feel free to do that too.
I don't know that I'm quite the Grubb lover that everyone else is.
Yes.
Well, so the first name that jumped to mind, and he's not gonna save the season, or I don't know how much he's even gonna play this year. But for all the crap he gets, I thought John Radigan looked pretty good in the preseason game. He did not look like a guy that is just like a mascot at an army or whatever. So yeah, he was the guy that jumped to my mind, and someone that like hasn't gotten a lot of talk to this point. Like we've talked about it, all these guys endlessly. I sympathize with Mike feeling a little tired of like, yeah, Byron Murphy looks good at camp again. DK is going crazy. But he was a guy that like popped where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. I wasn't hearing like, or I wasn't believing that he's really playing that well.
Brian,
I didn't quite get the question. Can you
Yeah.
just, you don't have to read the whole thing, but like give me the gist of it
So
again?
Chris Bailey wants to know that since McDonald is doing a great job with his camp, but all the new coaches and new schemes, is there a position coach that you've been impressed by? And then Bobo says, is there an unsung hero, player, or coach that you think could impact the season? So kind of together, I thought
That's why I
who's
was confused.
sticking out?
Okay.
Yeah.
The player coach thing was throwing me. All right.
Oh, I got another one for you. If you,
Yeah, go.
I'll tee you up on the tight end. Scored a touchdown. What's his name?
Brady Russell.
He looked
Brian's favorite player.
He looked legit. Like he looked real spicy out there. Yeah.
I'm telling you, when he's got his hairy belly showing with the cutoff jersey and his locks flowing in motion as he runs like jet speed across the formation. Love it, dude. He's a character.
I don't know how much he'll play, but like that's like there's a role for him. Like there's opportunities for him if that's what he's gonna play like, I think.
That is probably one of the biggest surprises of camp is that he has solidly separated from AJ Barner. Like he is way ahead of AJ Barner.
I'm a little sad about that, but
yeah, I'm not sad for the Russell part, but I'm sad that AJ Barner has not had as great of a camp as I'd hoped. So the question, unsung potential person that would pop, position coach or otherwise. I mean, the guy that from a coaching perspective that I've really liked watching is Kennedy Palomalu. There's a lot. I like Justin Hines as well. The defensive line coach, I think, has done a nice job. But watching Kennedy Palomalu work on the running back splits pickup has been really cool. And I think I've seen a lot of guys really improve, especially Kenneth Walker. And that's going to have a potential really big impact on this year, because if Kenneth Walker can play third downs when he wasn't able to before, there's a lot of potential for what that could do for the offense. So yeah, that's the guy I'd probably call out.
All right. 2 more questions. Both of them. Well, the first one's kind of a yes, no, maybe a little bit of an explanation. The other one is a this or that game from Jen. So I'm excited about that. So the first one is from Old School Seahawk. Given the copycat nature of the NFL, have you heard anyone talk about the brotherly shove, either coming up with a Seahawk version or plans to defend it? Also, he'd like more Bobo, but any thoughts on the brother? Because the Eagles, they're like running with it, and they thought for sure that they would, get in the rules committee, and they'd be like, "Nah, can't do it," and they didn't. They didn't touch it. So, anyone think we're getting a Seahawks version of that?
Brian said that's why I agree.
I'm not from any inside knowledge. I don't think we have the personnel for it. I think Jalen Hurts is a very different kind of quarterback, and Jason Kelce was a different kind of center. As good as Connor Williams is, he's not a brute. He's not like anyway, it just doesn't feel like we have the right people for it.
I don't need a brotherly shove, but like, can Mike spend like, can he focus the details on getting like a Tom Brady level sneak game? Like, it doesn't have to be fancy or anything, but like, if you tell me that they can just sneak and reliably convert 4th and short, or 4th and inches or whatever, that would be incredible.
Converting short yardage, I'm with you. I'm not. I don't. Gino's body. I'm not. I don't want to be.
Yeah, but like Tom Brady wasn't doing
it. But
Tom Brady wasn't doing anything special, and he didn't want. You don't want to risk it with him either, and they were super effective at it.
Isn't that more about the line though than it is the quarterback necessarily?
I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, yeah.
Brady was really good at feeling out where the soft spot was going to be in the line and protecting his body. He also he was built pretty like solidly. Not that he was super strong, but he was a little durable. Something about Gino's body type just doesn't make me feel as confident about him absorbing contact. But
fair enough.
Whatever.
All right, this is for both of you. Jen, we love you for this. Okay. Playing this or that for the 53-man roster based on camp so far. Number 1, McIntosh or Holani? Brian, I know your answer. Go ahead.
I'm easy on that.
Yeah.
Holani for sure.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
On brand. On brand. I love it.
Number 2, Brady Russell or Westover?
Oh, Brady Russell.
Brady Russell.
Brady Russell, yeah. We're going to agree. It's going to be boring. Okay. Number 3, D. Williams or D. Eskridge?
D. Eskridge, 100%.
Sure. No, I'll go the other way. I'll go D. Williams because I like D. Williams and would like to see him somehow. I don't think he's going to make it, but I'd like to see it.
Number 4, I think this one's a little more interesting. Chenault or D. Eskridge?
Oh, Chenault. 100%. Nathan's got some capital invested in Eskridge.
I actually have capital invested in both these dudes. I had some draft takes about Chenault. Yeah, I'll go Chenault. What is that? 3 out of 4 we agree on.
Look pretty good, I think, so far.
Both of these dudes are going to get injured by week 3, and we're never going to see the real answer. But
so in chat, old school Seahawk wanted to know about Aesop Winston Jr. He had a nice catch today. It was a good video. Bob posted it if you guys want to go watch it. So that is our Patreon questions, friends.
Awesome. Great questions as always. Thank you to the folks, patreon.com/hawkblogger. Great time to sign up and join. And Dayna, thank you for asking all those questions. Let's wrap by talking for a little bit again. Dayna, this has been a long road for you.
Yeah.
It's going to take to the games, I know. But what do you feel like you need to see, or maybe what do you need to hear to start building your enthusiasm for this team?
Well, I will admit that part of my enthusiasm is starting to build, especially around the defense. I think I was just so panicked about that because we've all talked a million times about the holes that this defense had. And, they're so young and it made me really nervous. And this last game really helped. And the little bit of practices that we have gotten to see has made me feel a little bit better. I wish I could see more because I had to watch I watched the NFL Plus version of the games. I got the Chargers feed. And so not one single time was there a Seahawks coach on that television. And I kind of wanted to see their sideline game a little bit. That, I love the personality. I want to see personality. And I feel like I have a somewhat of a good read on AD. Doesn't he go by AD? Dirty goes by AD. And I feel like I have a good read on him. I know nothing about Ryan Grubb, and that is my fault for not watching college football. I understand that. But I feel like I'm starting to understand, I wanted to see him on the sidelines. So I don't know if you guys watching the Seahawks feed got any full. Was he animated at all? Because I was so let down by Evil Harbaugh. He looked like old Grandpa Mr. Slow Pants over there. He didn't throw that clipboard one time, and I was so bummed about that. But I want to see that sideline a little bit. I am not nervous about the offense at all. It'll be interesting to see how they tweak it. I think that is going to be fun to watch. And then today during the press conference, during Coach McDonald's press conference, he said he was asked a question about the offense. He's like, I don't know, I didn't watch them at all today. I was with the defense only today. And I was just like, you're a
You didn't like
head
that.
coach now.
I kind of loved
didn't
that.
like it. I didn't like it. I'm like, you're a head coach. You have to play both sides. I love that he loves defense because I do too. But I don't know. I would think.
Did you like Mike
hopefully.
Holmgren as a coach?
Yeah.
That
No,
doesn't
not
sound
really.
like it.
Not really. He was fine. It's so funny because everyone knows that I like Pete's style. I'm not saying that he still
Mhm.
should be coached, but I liked his style. I also love Mike Tomlin, and there could not be two totally different types of coaches. So I think I just need to get a read still a little bit from him. I think it's because I'm a little ageist. He's so young. And this is his first
Interesting.
and so I'm waiting for him, and I'll get murdered for this on social media, and I don't even care. I'm waiting for me to see that moment from him. And I think that's why I wanted to see the sideline. Like, I want to see him in that role a little bit more. But team perspective, I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing. I'm very excited. I want it to be a real game. I want the preseason to be over and let's just go right at this point, because I want to see the new inventive things that are going to come up on offense. And I really, really want to see that defense at full strength, at full power. You guys are laughing, which means someone's being mean to me.
Do it,
Sentient
Brian.
Sandwich.
Do it.
I am not that old. I'm old, but I am not that old. Thank you very much.
So funny.
I know.
The Tomlin thing's
it
an
sounds bad.
It's interesting you bring up Tomlin because I actually don't think that's a bad comp for Mike McDonald.
That would make me so happy.
Everyone goes to like Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh, and he obviously is influenced by them, but I think he's different than those guys.
Mhm.
And Tomlin is intense, about the business, has a high standard, has like that fits. I think he has more of a scheme advantage than Tomlin has.
Mhm.
I think Tomlin's mainly got by just being like a very like good leader and a solid football coach, but I actually don't think that's a bad potential comp.
It's true, because you say that he doesn't like to, praise players. Tomlin always, his first thing he says, well, they did their job. And I love that for some reason. So I'm hoping, I am very happy with this hire. I think it was the right person for the job. I love the defensive coaches that they've hired. I don't know much about Grubb, but I also don't care that much about the offense. But so I think that I just need to see in-game going, and then I'll be fully in. But right now, I will tell you, I'm 75% in, which is
That's
pretty.
That's progress.
Pretty far jump from where I was probably a month ago.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And Nathan, I mean, you haven't been as reticent to offer like enthusiasm, but you've also been pretty even keel about it. And maybe I'm curious, like, are you excited? Because I'm not sure I know. Like, where are you at?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm firmly a believer of like, well, you got to actually see it, and like it's preseason, it's practice, but just everything has been pitch perfect. Everything he's supposed to be, he's living up to it. He's a technician, and like all the details, again, just the preseason game is just another example of like the details are always right. You play clean, play smart. Getting Knight to go out there and going from UTEP, right, to second stringers, but it's NFL, and looking like he belongs and knows what he's doing out there. That's impressive stuff. And we'll see. If tragedy strikes and Sam Howell starts the whole year and he gets sacked 80 times and throws as many picks as touchdowns, like that's probably more likely than not if that's the case. But it just feels different. I was trying to think, you're talking about Tomlin being a decent comp. And again, I don't want to get I'm trying not to get way ahead of myself, but like, I can't think of a coach that feels as just on point and on the ball and put together as he does.
Even McVay, because you hear that about McVay too.
Yeah, maybe McVay. And part of it is just he's got a real different personality. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, Belichick was amazing and detail oriented, and Andy Reid's an incredible coach. Like, I'm not saying he's the best coach out there by any
I
means
get it. Yeah.
yet, right? But like, just the way, I don't know. There's just something about him that feels a little different and feels a. I think you were saying like whenever he's talking, you can always just see the wheels going in his head, and he's
Mhm.
always like, it feels like he's always a couple steps ahead, or just looking at it different, or somewhere else, but not in a daydreaming way. um and yeah, I mean, I don't know, then you add in like Byron Murphy looks incredible, and DK is shredding it in practice, and like all the feedback on Gino has been positive. I'm a big Gino believer. So yeah, there's a couple things like, okay, what is this offensive line really going to look like?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think that's like the last thing that I'm like really wondering about, but I don't know. It's starting to feel really good. Not Super Bowl good, but it's starting to feel like this team falls into like an NFC Championship game. I'm not going to be shocked.
Really?
Well, I
See,
mean,
that's
yeah.
crazy to me. I was just gonna say, I feel like we are at a springboard, right? And we are at the end, and you feel really good about where they're going forward, right? It's not necessarily that we think they're gonna go win a Super Bowl this year, but the draft picks are lining up perfectly the way they needed them. The players that they've added and brought in, the way they're using them. And that is 100% credit to Coach McDonald and John Snyder. But the way, so I give him 100% credit for that. And I love what I'm seeing so far. I think I just need to see the consistency going forward. I think that'll be a huge thing for me. Just because we don't know. But where I feel right now, where we are going into the season and going forward, I could not be happier with where they're at.
We got a couple weeks until our prediction show. It's going to be interesting. We always end up, at least some of us, end up being too bullish. I'm committed to not being too bullish this year. But the fact of the matter is, and let me just completely, violate that right now. But um, I agree with a lot of pretty much everything that you said, Dayna,
Evan.
and
Evan.
Nathan.
Oh
I don't know
my.
He said
why.
Dayna.
All right. I'm out of here. Goodbye.
I don't know. I agree with everything you guys said. And what was making me think is refining like my thoughts about McDonald, that he is confident, but not to the point of arrogance.
Mhm.
He is competitive, but not to the point of losing sight of like what matters, and not to the point of being able to take care of people. And so there's a lot of things that he has that I really think are key to being a enduring, winning coach. And then you add to all of it the number of players that I think are probably being underestimated about what kind of performance they're going to have this year. And you get two things. One, if you have a coach that always gets the most out of the talent that's possible, you can't ask for more than that. And so whether it's Super Bowl or not, if we can have a team that plays hard every week, that's physical, and that you feel like they're winning the games they should win, and they're making improvements when they need to make, like, if all that's happening, then, okay, like, I think everyone can be like, all right, we're building towards something, we'll figure it out, and eventually this jigsaw will come together. And the other piece is, there's always a team every year that's just like, they weren't that great last year and then they become great. And I think the assumption is that's going to be the Falcons this year, or the Bears this year, or, one of these, the Jets, right? Like, those are the teams that people are like, they're going to be the team this year. I don't think it's crazy. I really don't think it's crazy that the Seahawks could end up being the team that actually slaps everybody upside the face. And they're like, whoa, like, we didn't see this coming.
And the
And
national narrative
yeah.
on that has changed this last week since the first preseason game. Remember, I told you last time I was on that the national media was not talking about Seattle other than Robert Turbin, right? That no one else was. And this week you heard a lot more of those conversations, and they could surprise us. They could end up, wouldn't be surprised if they ended up second in their division, because no one's taken the Niners off the throne yet. So it's like, but I think that I don't know what they saw in that first preseason game, probably the same things that we did. But the national narrative seems to have changed on that a little bit too, that they kind of are leaning more toward these guys could be pretty good. So
And there's
We'll see.
some really legit talent on this team. Like,
mhm.
again, I don't think they're Super Bowl favorites or a legit Super Bowl contender. They just have what feels like maybe too many gaps at, safety, linebacker. We got to see what this offensive line looks like in action. But, you've got Gino, you've got DK, you've got Kenneth Walker, you've got Tyler Lockett, JSN. Like, on defense, you've got Spoon, Enrique, you've Murphy, Williams. We talked about Nwosu and Mafe having a legitimate shot at double-digit sack seasons. They don't on that guy. We'll see what Murphy can be. They don't. It doesn't feel like they have the guy on defense like the Chris Jones or whatever. We'll see what Murphy can be this year. I mean, I don't know if he's there this season. He's the one that you would think would be that if they end up having it. But so that's where I'm kind of like, yeah, the offensive line, they don't have like a real kick-ass offensive line. I don't know that they have that dude on defense that like is just Micah Parsons and just messes everything up yet. But they got a lot. This is not a talent poor team by any stretch. And so like, are they gonna go to the Are they gonna beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game and then beat the Chiefs or the Bills or whoever in the Super Bowl? No, probably not. Can they get a couple wins in the playoffs? Yeah, I think
Maybe.
it's looking like that's likely. I don't know. Reasonable, definitely.
Yeah, it's like a mosh pit in like a metal concert, and it's this swirling tornado of like toughness that that you see the best teams in football, and the Seahawks have been kind of a team that like we kind of like, all right, I'm gonna get in there, and they just get ejected like right away, like they just bounce right off because they don't belong in there. They're like they don't have the tools to be in that mosh pit, and now it does feel like they've got some of what they need to get in there and bounce somebody else out. And they're going to have to prove that. But I fundamentally believe that if you're going to be a team that matters in the NFL, you have to be a team that can physically impose on an opponent. And they just haven't been that for a long time. And I think that they can this year. And I'm not just talking about in the trenches. I'm talking about Reek Woolen at corner. I'm talking about DK Metcalf at wide receiver. I'm talking about Kenneth Walker at running back. So I do think that they're starting to get some of those. But that's kind of the fun. It's all got to be proven. It's all got to be proven. So
the other thing on that, like, yeah, DK, Byron Murphy, like those are your bullies, right? But JSN digging that, was it a safety or a linebacker out?
it was
Like, that's not
safety,
JSN's game. And that's not like, not a knock on JSN. Like, that's not what he's known for.
No.
And so that's like, I look at that and I see coaching, right? Something that people have been raving about the Georgia team for years is like, yeah, they're insanely talented, but those dudes hit. They stick their head in, they throw their bodies around. And we saw that from Kayvon Wallace. We saw that from JSN. Like, we saw that from a lot of dudes that aren't your just normal enforcer bully types. And I think that speaks really well of the coaching staff too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, with that in mind, let's wrap and talk quickly. I will just say tomorrow morning is going to be an early show. So 7:30 a.m. I'm talking to a Titans reporter who is going to talk about his impressions of the Seahawks from that joint practice yesterday. So I really wanted to get a Titans perspective on what they saw. So that'll be 7:30 in the morning. So make sure you tune in early or watch the replay. All is fine. And then Friday, for sure, for Blue Friday, I will be doing a roster prediction update. And there's already changes I know I'm going to make for my roster prediction heading into the final game. There may be a guest, but we'll see. And then Saturday, hopefully we'll do Seahawks Saturday with Jeff Simmons. We're working on details, whether he's available. And then Saturday at game time, 4:00, we're doing another watch party. Thousands of people were crazy enough to watch last week, so let's do it again. We'll do that at 4:00. Bring a friend. Let's have some fun and watch the game together. So,
Are you gonna talk to the Titans reporter about Jamal Adams? Are they tired of that dude yet?
I don't know if I'm going to spend any of my minutes on Jamal Adams. I know that like Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs are a story to a lot of Seahawks fans. They're former Seahawks in my mind. I'm all about how the Seahawks are doing right now, but yeah, I know for other people it's different.
Did you hear the story today about Adams hitting
Oh, that
K9?
he like talked crap, hit somebody, and then like sat out the rest of practice.
He's been missing practice because of general soreness. He apparently played like one drive, hit K9, talked a lot of crap, and then immediately left the game. He's this dude. I wish Diggs nothing but the best, and that dude, I'm so done with Jamal Adams. What a joke.
I think a lot of people are like that. For me, I don't have a lot of ill will one way or the other. Like I understand why people do, but if Jamal Adams has a like big resurgence with Tennessee, I'd be happy for him. But yeah, I didn't have the same negative stuff that other people. And I think I get it. I get why people do, but I just don't care to be totally honest. I know Dayna, you're a big Quandre guy.
I'm a big Quandre fan. I'm so thrilled for him that he got picked on by another team. And I to be honest with you, I think Jamal Adams probably had something to do with the reason he's on the Titans. Yeah. I'm sure of it. And so I wish Quandre absolutely nothing but the best. I think that he even said his heart will stay in Seattle. He loved that team, but he needs the paycheck, and good for him. Go get your money. Jamal reminds me of the guy who just a little bit like Sherman, who just likes the attention. So I don't give it too much credit, but I'm glad that he got picked up by another team. Do I think he will play the whole season? No,
I think I'd feel differently about Jamal if his teammates didn't like him or they weren't thrilled to see him, but they were like, they all are really happy to see him. They all feel very positively about him. And so I don't know.
Fine. He's just a player on another team now. So
that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. If you haven't given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. Click the bell to get notified because you never know when we're going to have an emergency pod and talking about stuff. And then, give the show a 5-star rating on whatever you get your podcasts on. Would love and appreciate that support. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 7:30, bright and early. Thank you to Nathan Ernst at Nathan11. Hopefully you feel better going forward. And Dayna O'Gorman at Dayna OG. Who, the answer to the question, is Dayna excited yet? She's getting there. She's a little bit excited. So it's like a dimmer switch. It's going up. It's going up. Thank you, Dayna. Thank you, Nathan. Thanks, everybody. This has been episode 327 of Real Hawk Talk. Take care.